correctly. So,
Oh, about this pod?
yeah, just kind of bang that out, and now it's gone. So I'll have to rewrite that.
It's so funny. Like I was just thinking about how are we live, by the way?
We are live now, so
Okay.
watch
All
your
right.
mouth.
Well, this is just that's a bit of bonus content then for anybody
Mm,
who's actually joining us. So, I let me actually say that we're live. Hold on one second here.
no.
Um, but like I was listening to the Ezra Klein show, and he was talking about how they're on YouTube now. And it's just so funny because every like longtime podcaster, we've all been told that you have to go on YouTube, in order to like
Yeah.
build your audience or make more money or whatever. But every single person, it's like their voice goes up like an octave and they try to sell how fake excited they are about it. And he's like, it's an interesting change. It's always like it's unique. It's different. Like Bill Simmons did this recently too. He's like, it's very different. It's unique. And it's like clearly none of them want to do it.
Oh, I
It's
mean,
very
but
funny.
he's got the force of the New York Times behind it. Like we have to figure this stuff out ourselves. Ezra Klein just
That's
shows
true.
up and sits on a stool.
That's true. And we're up to 1,500 subscribers on the YouTube page. It's not bad for doing virtually no work to promote it. That's
Come on.
not bad. That's
Yeah,
not bad.
show us some respect, YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, it is let's kick things off here, Brandon.
Yeah.
Hail cheers. Welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, how are you?
Doing all right. Yeah, we are, as you had mentioned before we went online, competing with the Academy Awards tonight.
Yep.
Competing with, I don't know, just like the fact that there is no Fantasy Premier League this weekend. We're competing with our desire to should we do a movie podcast tonight? Is that
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, we could, at the risk of everybody hating us immediately, but like, the Academy Awards are tonight. Do you have any, like, do you have a preferred movie like to win Best Picture of the? You probably need me to remind you what the Best Picture nominees are, don't you?
Well, I think my favorite movie, my favorite movie from the year was a Different Man, which
I love that movie too.
I don't think it was nominated for Best Picture.
No, not only that, but Sebastian Stan was nominated for Best Actor for that like Trump movie that nobody watched.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people watched A Different Man either, but at least that was funny and weird, and like I don't know how that movie pulled it off. I mean, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's this, this person has I guess they're like facial tumors basically, right? And it's like which is like a real
man sort of a thing.
Exactly. And for anybody who's seen Under the Skin, there's the actor from that is in this movie as well. And anyway, he gets this surgery, but the whole theme of the movie is basically like, it's like it's this idea. It's actually, to me, it's like exactly what makes film good, which is it's or what film at its best can do, which is if someone just says to you, what you are on the inside is what counts, right? That is like the most trite thing that you would never like, that means nothing to you, right? You wouldn't even like hear it in a way. But when you see that sentiment expressed over 2 hours of film, you feel it, right? You like feel it in your soul. And by the end of that movie, I was like, this is like borderline profound. Like the, like the kind of sentiment of this movie.
Well, that's very well articulated. I agree. And to walk that fine line of the characters are kind of relatable, but also absurd, and right in that sweet spot where you, like you're saying, Josh, you feel that message. You don't feel alienated by its tone or anything like that. The other movie that's actually nominated for an award that I'm rooting for is Flow, this cartoon with a cat.
I think that won. I think that just won.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. So I still haven't seen that actually, amazingly, even though I'm of the two of us, I'm the one with a child on this call.
Team Flow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do need to see that though. Is there any dialogue? It's like dialogue free.
No,
right?
it's dialogue free. Yeah, it's all animals, and it's weird. Like the animals are like mildly personified, but they're mostly like real animals. So there's no talking.
Yeah. I don't think it was a great year for movies, but there were plenty of movies that I liked. I ended up liking Complete Unknown way more than I expected. Like I would say I didn't even want to see it like the first 2 weeks it was out. And then I liked it so much that I actually brought my family to see it again. I saw it twice. I thought Conclave was good, clean fun, right? Like it was, just like, if Conclave wins the Best Picture tonight, I am totally fine with that. Like that
Mhm.
is just like great. Like
Mhm.
my mom would enjoy Conclave. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like when a movie can win Best Picture and like everyone can enjoy it, I'm sort of okay with that, right?
Mhm.
And even people who are like whose tastes run a little snobbier, I felt like enjoyed that movie. And you and I saw Nora together. Challengers is actually my favorite movie of last year, but Challengers
Mm.
is more of a, I guess it's more of a popcorn movie and did not get any
Nora's
noms.
so long, so long. Couldn't take
It
it.
didn't feel long to me, but Anora is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a bit long, yeah, for someone like you. That's kind of tough. You hadn't taken
I
your pills or anything before the
no, yeah.
show. All right,
But
well let's.
it's a lot like the Ballon d'Or. Everybody knows that, Harrison Reed is the best footballer on the planet, though he'll never be nominated.
That's true.
The
That's
the
true.
real winners never actually win. They
That's
never
true.
get the
The
trophies.
central midfielders never get the
No.
shine. All right. Well, here we are. It's Game Week 28 approaches. We had an FA Cup weekend, which it felt. I mean, we're going to talk through it, but I felt like you were saying like the charts are so complicated. It's a real if X then Y sort of situation in terms of how it sort of affects the rest of the like the blanks that are coming up, and that mostly that's in Game Week 34 though, so it's there's no one like nothing anybody has to worry about kind of imminently,
Mhm.
although if you still have your wild card, as I do, if you still have a free hit, as you and I both do as well, the knowing who's going to be playing twice is obviously very important for sort of putting together the right squad. So the more pressing issue for me is Game Week 29 and fielding enough players.
Mhm.
I'm going to try to do everything in my power to not burn a transfer this week and give myself a little more.
What's your
eh,
situation? How many blankers do you presently have, and how
Yeah,
many
well,
transfers do you have if you include the Game Week 29 transfer?
yeah. Well, my Game Week 27 transfer is now on a red card, so I think I have 7 players. It would have been. I guess it would have been 6, and that would have been fine, and I could have maybe gone with, like, a -4. 7 feels like a lot. Like, 7 is
Mhm.
borderline. Maybe I just free hit
Yeah.
and just, like,
Now,
bite the
for the
bullet
listeners at
territory.
home, the Patreon subscribers know this already, but we hadn't podded since you made that transfer. They might be thinking that you transferred in Cunha or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah,
I
I
need
don't
the
know why
people to know.
you're really enjoying this transfer that I made. I'm enjoying it less than you, so I don't really enjoy talking about it as much. I know it's great fun for you. I mean, to me, it's like basically what's going to make me like quit FPL. But like it is. Yeah, I brought in I made a terrible transfer, and it's gone really badly, and it's kind of ruined my season to the extent that the season was salvageable. So yeah, not
Put your
great.
guesses in the chat. I love this game.
No, I
Yeah.
said it was Dorgu from Man
Oh,
United.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So, so that's a bummer for sure. But yeah,
Okay,
that's where we are. Yeah.
so seven blankers,
Yep.
two frees, basically, is
Yeah.
where you're at right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess the feeling of being okay with not fielding a full squad, fielding 9 or 10 players in game week 29. My general vibe, looking at the fixtures for the blank in 29, is it's a lot of like for like teams playing each other. There's a lot. It's going to be
Yeah.
a very hard to predict game week as far as results and fantasy returns are concerned. So I'm
Yep.
not feeling strongly that like a free hit. How do you optimize a free hit? That's going to be a huge guessing game, in my opinion. And then
Yeah.
justifying a -4 to get at a full squad is hard to do. I think.
Yeah. I think that's true. The other thing that makes it tricky is I don't know. I mean, every time I look at the weekend fixtures, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. This doesn't look that great. It's like there's never like I feel like there's rarely a week where I'm like, oh yeah, like I need to make a bunch of transfers to seize on this.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I usually have the players I won already. But yeah, I think you really rattled me bringing up the Dorgu thing again.
Triggered you.
I
Yeah, I
It
guess
did. Well,
so.
yeah. I mean, it's just like it was to me. It was like oh maybe I'm just genuinely bad at FPL now, and like that is just sort of like a thing that I had a great run, 5 top 10K
Yeah.
finishes. It's all good.
I'm not
We
trying to
get we
twist
get
the
all
knife,
no
Josh. I
no
just
it's
think,
fine.
we're here to talk about our
No
teams, and I want to be
absolutely.
honest with the
Well, we're
people.
here to talk about FPL. We're not necessarily here to talk about.
Okay. All right.
If you want to hear me talk about how this season's been like I think I called it like chewing glass, then you can listen to our Patreon pod from last Thursday, which inspired a lot of people on Discord, doing like a proof of life check. It's all good. I'm more irritated than sad. It's all fine. Um, so yeah, I think it's going to be pretty tricky to field anything close to a full squad, whether I free hit or not. I don't know. I mean, now that now when you free hit, you can carry transfers over. If I don't wild card in game week 30, um, I could maybe hold off um on like hold off on wild carding until later, and then I could sort of set up a team for like game week 34 doubles, and that wouldn't
Hmm.
necessarily hurt me so much. Not game week 34. I guess it's going to be more like a game week 36. And then 36 or 37. It's very tricky to figure out exactly who's going to play when. I don't
So
know.
it's
Yeah.
contingent upon. So to kind of just like to walk back just slightly, the FA
Yep.
Cup, a round of whatever happened leading into the quarterfinals. That happened this weekend. So
Right.
there was just the draw for the FA Cup quarterfinals, and those will be played ahead of game week 30.
Yep.
So going into game week 30, we will then have a much clearer understanding of how the doubles and blanks stack up in those weeks that you just mentioned,
Right.
34, 36.
Right.
So that's really what we're waiting on. And I it's I think it's just it keeps coming back this season in the planning way of the best new rule that FPL has ever come up with is you can stack up to 5 free transfers.
Yeah.
And I feel like the best policy would be build up a bank of free transfers so you don't have to think about this.
Yeah, I think for people like you and our friend Dave, it's a great strategy. I've always tried to be a more aggressive player, and I think it's sort of a more patient, like I don't even want to say passive because I don't think it's that, but just like the more patient players are seeing a gigantic. I'm not actually sure if you can still win FPL unless you're like a seriously patient player,
Hmm.
because I do think that it's so valuable to have these 5 transfers, and it's just so against my sort of approach to FPL. Like I think my feeling is just like, well, it's fun it's fun to make transfers, it's fun to do things to improve your team, and I think now it's building a good FPL squad is more like building like a sound investment strategy. You really
Hmm.
want to have a lot of liquidity,
Hmm. Yeah.
which is fine. It's just a different kind of approach. So some people are going to
You're
like it a
you're
lot.
you're more of a fixed interest rate sort of a guy. Uh,
Well, I'm like more like a meme stonks kind of guy, I guess, right? I'm sort of chasing
to the
riding the
moon,
dragon or whatever.
to the moon.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
so it feels like the biggest takeaway fantasy wise from this weekend's FA Cup fixtures was the forward madness.
Right.
So Cunha received a red card. Hilariously, I mean, from my point of view, others who have
Yeah.
Cunha on their fantasy team will feel differently.
Yeah,
In like
right,
the
right.
119th minute, just for some dumb handbags, and team could have used him on pens for sure, and
Mhm.
they will miss him for the next 3 fixtures. Suddenly, Wolves are like, "Oh, okay, so are we going to get dragged back into a relegation fight?" But the
Right.
the point there is Cunha looked really good for game week 29 because Wolves face who do they play?
They have a great. I mean,
Yeah, Southampton.
their 28 through 31 run is
Yeah.
fantastic. It's Everton at home in 28, Southampton in 29, West Ham in 30, and Ipswich in 31. So
Hmm. So
as good as it
Cunha's off the
gets.
table for the next 3 weeks, and then Mateta, who was another great pick going forward, basically got his head kicked off,
Yep.
which was very unfortunate. So he's
Yep.
going through,
Had to go to the
uh,
hospital, I
yeah.
believe. Yep.
So all jokes aside, very much hope he's doing all right. I mean, what Millwall,
Yeah,
they're
I don't think you were
forever
joking.
kicking
I mean,
people in the head.
yeah, yeah, the head could have been kicked off. What else would you I mean, like they really love to live up to their reputation, don't they? It's incredible. They're both the
Yeah,
fans and the players.
yeah.
Yeah, spectacular
So
stuff.
so
And
now
then
Mateta.
I would throw
Mhm,
Jimenez in there as well because you've got he now has been benched for 2 consecutive matches. So if you
mhm.
thought the midweek one was a rest, well, he's been benched again. So he may just be kind of moving out of the starting spot now. And I think the other one is Utara and Evan Nilsson, who
Yeah.
Utara had been playing great, but Evan Nilsson got the start this weekend, scored. Utara did come on. I can't remember when he came on, the 65th minute or something like that. So he may be back in kind of a bench role as well. So
Well,
yeah,
see, I mean,
it's
Utara did start on the left when Evan Nilsson was fit. Like not like every
sometimes.
match,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
mean, given the form that Utara has been in,
yeah.
I would expect Areola to just want to play him in any capacity. Is
Yeah,
my
I guess it just depends on
my
how, yeah,
guess.
Clivert and Semenya, like, is because I feel like Clivert, I'd have to like look at a heat map, but I felt like Clivert was maybe playing on the left a little bit more when
I think the
Utara was
way
up
they would
front.
set up would be Clivert in the middle,
Sure.
Utara on the left, and Semenyo on the right. Evan
Right.
Nielsen up front.
No, I agree, but I don't know if maybe they just really like what Clivert's giving them on the
I see.
left, right?
Okay.
He's been amazing the last
Hmm.
few weeks. So really the whole season he's been great. Like he might make like the Premier League best 11. It is kind of fun. I mean, I was looking at the FA Cup quarterfinals, and so you've got after today's matches, you've got Man City Bournemouth, which could be a fun match, I think. Palace Fulham, another one where it's like, one of those two squads gets a chance to play in the playing the FA Cup semifinals. It's great.
Hmm.
Aston Villa and Preston North End. There's some drama in that match as well. And then actually, we didn't even talk about my favorite drama, which is the introduction of semi-automated offside, which somehow led to the longest VAR review in the history of VAR in England.
Yeah.
An 8.5 minute review. Like, I am actually now starting to come around to it's not like VAR is not the problem. It is the incompetence. But like, to me, it's like, but the point is like, you can't separate the two, right? It's like,
Sure. It's the
do you have a
same
problem
thing.
with video review? Not especially. Do you have a problem with the incompetent handling of it? Yeah, I do.
Hmm.
It's a real problem. But anyway, Brighton, anyway, that aside, Brighton Forest, or Brighton versus Forest or Ipswich, I should say. Those are the two squads that play tomorrow, and then yeah, Villa, Preston North End. So yeah, so I think it's just sort of fun because it feels like this, like, if Forest win tomorrow, then it does feel like you're going to get, like, it's cool that the FA Cup is like kind of a reflection of the teams that have been the fun kind of up and coming teams in the Premier League this year, right? Like those teams are not realistically going to win the FA or win the Premier League, but if you've got Brighton, Forest, or I should say, like, if you just like if it's Forest, Fulham and Bournemouth in the all making the semifinals, that's amazing, right? Like those have been, Bournemouth and Forest especially have been sort of the stories of the year, and so it's kind of cool that like the FA Cup is sort of functioning almost like a reward, like, and it's like another way to sort of acknowledge how good these teams are, and that's I just hope it's not Man City, Preston North End, in the in the final.
Well, that would be a story. I
That's true. That would
mean,
be you're right. Actually,
Preston North End
that'd be
lifting
cool
the
too.
cup
You're right.
after.
What would be what is the worst possible matchup? I guess Man City Man City Villa would be kind of boring. I feel like just no, it's not bad because Villa would be a fun
Villa
team to root
Brighton.
for. Yeah, Villa Brighton would be tough. But even then it'd be okay. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, it was an interesting FA Cup weekend for sure. Yeah, you got it as a Fulham supporter, Brennan. You must be thrilled by their win, performance, extra time.
Yeah, the performance was not awesome. It was kind of a bad game, but you kind of like stoop to the level of your opposition.
Yeah,
But to that, like Manchester United all season in the league have been bad for us. Like we somehow lose to them. They've beaten us in the FA Cup previously. So going to Old Trafford and just any way we could getting that win
yep,
was amazing. And I love seeing Anthony Robinson step up and take a critical pen. I don't think I've ever seen him take a meaningful penalty before, and he
yep.
took it really coolly.
That was to
And
win the match too, right? Wasn't it?
no, it was after he scored. Leno saved two consecutive pens from
Oh, okay.
United. So,
Got it.
but
Got it. Okay.
his was Robinson's was essentially the pen that did win it in the end, though he was not to know that at the time.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, like come on, Manchester, go away for a long time and come back when you're ready.
I know, and they've got a big match midweek, and that's kind of the other news right now is that we have a bunch of teams that play in Europe this week. right? So it is a good week to hold your transfers for sure. Even if you have some like immediate surgery you've got to do, because Arsenal, Liverpool, Villa, Spurs, Chelsea, Man United all play at midweek. I believe Arsenal, Villa, and Liverpool all play away in the first leg as well. So it's kind of interesting. I think that actually gets to the 29 thing. I think I don't know if I ever finished my thought there earlier, but 29 could be even trickier because um, for the European clubs, they'll have played the first and second legs. So basically, it's first leg of the elimination rounds of the Europa League and the Champions League in midweek, and then you've got game week 28, and then the second round is at midweek, and then you've got game week 29. So that's effectively four matches in 2 weeks, followed by the international break. So it's going to be a lot of matches, a lot of football on your TV the next 2 weeks or so, and then we're all going to get a little bit of a break for a couple of weeks. So yeah, it's really coming down to the stretch run here, I think, and I think we should treat game week 28 on its own terms shortly as well. Because Liverpool hosts Southampton, it does feel like the captaincy debate, we don't have to even kind of pretend to do one this week. But I think there are some other interesting questions that we can talk about related to Game Week 28.
Well, there is going to be
Yeah.
the rumor brigade of, well, should Salah be benched because of the comfortable table position that Liverpool are in and the
Sure.
European fixtures that they have coming up? It's it's not for me, that
Hmm.
argument,
Hmm.
but it's going to be had.
It's not
It's
who
going to
you
be
are.
had. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not who I
Um,
am.
yeah, I think that I mean,
It's Ramadan as well, though. I went back and looked at Ramadan 2024. Cast your mind back. What were you
yeah,
doing?
who can forget? One of the better Ramadans, in my
And
opinion.
so Liverpool played just like within the span of Ramadan. Liverpool played 6 matches, including one cup match and at least one European match.
Yeah,
Salah started all but one, and that was at Anfield hosting Manchester City, and he was coming back from
right,
injury. He scored 6 goals and 3 assists. To my analysis, I might have missed a few
right.
stats in there, but basically, he played, he performed.
And in the 2025 Ramadan too is it's a bit earlier in the calendar, like two weeks roughly, and
I think
all
it's
of
just
the
one week. I think it started in March 9 last year. I was just looking at this earlier today.
okay, yeah, yeah. So yeah, started on the 28th this time around. So kind of right in between us, Brandon. I'd say that's 10
Okay.
days.
You,
So I
you
think
took the under, I took the over. That's
yeah,
right.
we both win. But it's but the Champions League matches will all be at night, so that'll be fine, right? He can
Hmm.
have those that disgusting gel things that all the tennis players eat. The little like
I
it's like
love
you
a
you
gel.
squeeze it out of the. It looks
Yeah, a little
gross, but
Go-Gurt.
protein packed Go-Gurt.
Hmm.
And so so he should be fine for those. So yeah, I guess it's more the I don't know. It's never been a huge problem for him. So like you were saying, he's this has not traditionally been a thing that's like brought him down. So it should be okay. But yeah, the only reason that it kind of matters, I guess, because there's no way I'm not going to captain him, is whether I want to triple captain him, right? And I think even the slightest amount of risk, I don't think there's much about him starting, right? Um, I think that there's just very little chance he doesn't start this match. They didn't play this weekend, right? They
Hmm.
he hasn't played. It'll be 10 days roughly, right?
Yeah, you want to
So
keep him limber,
yeah,
keep those
yeah,
legs moving.
yeah. I guess not 10 because there were midweek fixtures last week, but anyway, but, it'll be a week off, and so I think that he'll play. It really obviously just depends on how they perform in the first leg of their match too.
Hmm.
But could affect. I mean, the thing that's so great about Salah, one of the reasons why he's such a great captain pick, is because he plays the full 90 in virtually every match, right? Unless they're up
Hmm.
8-0 or something like that. So you just hoover up random late pens, late, like when a team is trying to put everybody into the box in a corner, right? And he gets a breakaway, gets a goal and an assist, things like that. And so it's just, there's just a lot of opportunities to hoover up extra points that are really helpful for captaincy or for bonus. Even just, chances created. And so you kind of lose that if he's subbed off
Mhm.
in like the 70th minute or something of
Yeah.
the match.
Our friend Yellow Army in the YouTube chat says time for another Gakpo 16-pointer like he did versus Ipswich. I love the idea of going for a Liverpool punt like
Hmm.
Gakpo if it weren't for the blank in 29, where it's like I can't transfer Gakpo in
Yeah.
and then have him on my bench. That you could. You could. I'm not going to do that. That doesn't feel
Right.
quite right to me, especially not free hitting.
Yeah, I mean, if I decide that I'm not going to free hit, or I mean, if I decide that I am going to free hit in 29, which I just may have to out of necessity, and just like not like there's a part of me that it's like, oh, is it strategic enough?
Mhm.
Like, am I maximizing the chip? But on some level, if I'm going to be burning 8 or more points, right? Like maybe it doesn't make sense. And actually, if I decide that I'm not going to free hit, the kind of optimal way to do it would be honestly would have been to do it a couple weeks ago to like decide, but like to do before 28 would actually maybe open up the door to playing a Gakpo, like to bringing him in as a transfer, right? This weekend.
Mhm.
And because who do Liverpool play in 30? Yeah, I mean they play Everton at home in game week 30, right?
Mhm.
So another good fixture. So if you're going to free hit, then it doesn't really matter, right? Who you bring in the next
Mhm.
this upcoming weekend.
For sure. Yeah. All right. What other challenges are we going to meet in game week
Yeah.
29?
Well, just noting again, and we're not even in it. This is a classic like scenario where we're talking about not the game week in front of us right now, but it's
Mhm.
obviously really important. But yeah, Villa, Palace, Liverpool, Newcastle, all blank in 29, right? So virtually everybody has a handful of those players across their squad. I think you and I are both committed to holding Isak and holding Salah. We'll see about everybody else, right? That's kind of
Mhm.
where we stand right now. I mean, Trent is like a borderline for me. Like I don't know, it's sort of
Yeah.
it depends.
Watching the
Yeah,
just on Isak and holding him through the blank,
yeah,
watching the Newcastle Brighton FA Cup match, Isak looked so good. Like he was just up to his old
scored. Yep,
tricks.
yep,
Had an offside goal that was beautifully taken. Had some lovely key passes too. So it's just like Isak back in action immediately.
yeah. I know Brighton really have their number, I guess, right? Because
Hmm.
they beat him a couple weeks ago too, didn't they?
Hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, and Chelsea, Brighton are interesting season for them. It like
Yeah, they're
they're
back in form for sure.
Yeah, they're kind of like Brentford. I feel like I remember a couple years ago when Brentford was like no one wanted to play them, and then they would have this stretch of like 3 months
Hmm.
in the middle of the season where they
Yeah.
were just lost everybody, and then
Yes.
they'd
Yep.
reverse it at the end. So
Right. Brighton are
okay.
the new Brentford.
Yeah, I guess
What a
so.
world.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But the other thing to keep in mind is that Newcastle and Palace do both double in game week 32. So for me, it is kind of interesting because I do, I still have a Palace. A I'm doubled up on Palace keepers, right? I have Henderson and his backup. So if I were, and it's not a great double, but it's still a double, right? So if I were to just go ahead and free hit in 29, at least I could sort of keep those two doublers without any issues, right?
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
And then I would probably just wait and not wildcard until after 32, right?
mhm.
And wild card in 33. So yeah, so that's a possibility. So more to come on that. I mean, I know I'm sort of talking out loud about my own squad here, but hopefully this is useful for people who are thinking through their own decisions here a little bit as well. So I just think in general, this is maybe something that I have gotten too susceptible to the last couple of years, which is like sort of like, what's the right way to play this chip? What's the right time to do this X, Y, and Z?
Mhm,
And it's just very team dependent, right? Because I think a lot of times it's people listening to other people who have like the exact same squad as them, right? And it's sort of like it's a little like I just don't think the same strategy applies for everybody across the board, right? Like
mhm.
there's a lot of team dependent things to consider. So
Yep.
all right, so that's kind of where we are right now. There's lots more to come. I do have this credit to Lego Mane who's always done such a great job with these charts on Scout over the years. Long time long time friend of the pod, Brandon. Like we haven't really talked to Lego Mane in a long time, but a long time friend
Mm.
of the pod. I'm
And a
glad.
strange friend.
Yeah, I'm glad still he's still kicking around though, which I think is great. Still making
Mm,
these awesome charts. So that's where we are. There's lots of like if X and Y type stuff for 34, but you can look it all up online. And I think that if we go into it, it's just
Google
gonna
it.
be too much detail.
Hmm.
So go look it up online or just wait and see. Just a quick shout out, Brendan. I did mention the Patreon pod. I mean, if you like to hear me melt down, last Thursday's was a classic, right? It was a classic of the genre, Brandon. It was many love it. It's many hate it too. It's polarizing, I would
Hmm.
say. But you go to patreon.com/always cheating to support the podcast, get extra podcasts each week. Say thank you to us for doing the pod. If and you don't want to do that, Brandon, you could just go to wherever you listen to your podcast and just give us 5 stars, give us a review. That's always very
Please.
nice.
Yeah.
I because the game week ended at midweek last week. It feels like we've had Monday fixtures forever, and so I don't tend to read off the Super League because usually that last game week changes things a lot. But this time around, we have a chance to. So, Brennan, the top 10 in the Always Cheating Super League. Okay,
Mm.
I am like 5,000th in that right now. Um,
It's a tough league.
it's a very tough league. That is true. In 10th is Joe Quayle. In 9th is Sebastian Frost. In 8th is Ruben Neal. In 7th is Ruben Scov. Wow. Back to back Rubens. You don't
Mm.
see that very
It's like a
often.
Reuben sandwich.
Reuben
Gets us.
sandwich. It
Where's
is.
sauerkraut and Russian dressing?
I know. Edwin
Corned
Edwin
beef.
will yeah, Edwin Williams, also a Patreon supporter, I believe.
Mm.
The King in 5th, Rana Rutel in 4th, Ricky Ing in 3rd, Brian Regera in 2nd, and Jake Poplonsky in 1st. So pretty tight at the top there too, Brendan. Just 14 points separate first from third. So you don't happen to know who's winning our second half kit contest, do you? Is that something that you
Mm.
have
I
handy?
noted that in the
The
Patreon
Patreon
pod.
pod.
I
Okay, all
don't
right.
have it up here in front of me,
That's fine. That's
unfortunately.
fine. All right. Well, let's just move on to game week 28 then, Brandon. The classic game week that everyone forgets because they're thinking about the game weeks ahead of them. So let me pull it up here so that you and I are both reading from the same
Yeah.
prayer book, as you like to say, Brandon. Your parents obviously
Huge. The power of prayer.
the power of prayer. You're a big fan of it, which I respect.
P for P.
Yeah.
P-O-P. Pop.
I'm always getting logged out of this thing. I feel like the fantasy site could, I don't know. I guess there was the like doxing situation at one point, right, where there was like a.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everyone loves
So
security. I'm all for the free and open internet where we can all look at each other's teams and make transfers for our friends. That sounds
and
like a
yeah,
a, a beautiful utopic future.
teams, bank statements, anything
Absolutely,
really. Yeah,
that's all fair game.
I
Mm,
totally agree. Yeah, why don't you read off your social at the end of the pod too, and we
happy
can
to,
share that
happy
out.
to. Yeah.
So game week 28, I got a real banger to kick off the weekend. I
Hmm.
think that Forest Man City, like genuinely pretty cool match, like pretty
Hmm.
exciting.
Hmm.
I don't think that Forest should play for a 0-0 the way they did against Arsenal. I think they should try to go for it and
Hmm.
win here. Yeah, what do you think about this one?
Well, I do think to give Arsenal some credit, like they were just so defensively organized, made it very difficult for Forest to kind of like find the
Yeah,
lines
but they had like
there.
3 shots in that match. I mean, I wouldn't say they went all out.
Man City's defense is terrible, though.
Yeah,
In comparison to Arsenal,
yeah,
that we can agree on, I'm sure.
absolutely.
So Forrest will score a goal. So getting on Chris Wood early ahead of game week 29 feels like a decent transfer. The question is, who do you drop? Like my front three right now: Wissa, Isak, and Watkins. Has to go ahead of game week 29. So is this the right time to move Watkins to Wood? I think that's interesting. And then looking at sort of like midfield options going forward, and I have I jumped on Neto for game week 27, and he just doesn't feel like a long-term hold to me. I've been kind of sizing up Gibbs White for the next month or so. So I think he's another one that kind of jumps out at me in this fixture. It's funny that all I'm thinking about are Forest players looking at this fixture and
Well,
no City players.
it seems appropriate that you and I have somehow skirted Forest players most of the
Yeah.
season, and then it's the Man City match where we're finally like, yeah, let's let's get in on that.
Well, I mean, Holland is starting to pick up some steam. He scored a goal.
Yeah.
Congratulations to, the best striker in the world scoring a goal last game
Hmm.
week. Failed to do so in the FA Cup, though he didn't start. So, give him a little bit of credit there.
Sure.
Where are you at on Holland these days?
He's like functionally irrelevant as far as fantasy is concerned. He's as irrelevant as Man City is this season. I mean, they're going to win the FA Cup somehow too. But it's, I think that it's you just can't. It's just very well. I mean, we did talk about how there are like no forwards again, so maybe he'd make his way back into the picture. But
Yeah.
it's very. I mean, the I guess the way that he would make his way in is that after game week 28, Cole Palmer
Yeah.
can finally, we can finally maybe
Hmm.
shed him from our squads. I mean, he
Mhm.
looks like he's, packing it in for the season, and so it
Mhm.
might be time to move on, and that would free up a lot of cash, right? If you moved
Yes.
him on to let's say you moved on to Justin Clivert or something like that, right? That free up like 4 million probably.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, completely agree. Palmer is the key to Holland, and just not sure it's worth it at this point. Yeah, we need to see a little bit more, skosh more.
yeah, I think so too. Who do Man City play in 29? It's let's see.
They play Brighton,
Brighton at
Hove, and
home.
Albion. Yep, three
Bright,
teams.
yeah, like we were just talking about that. Brighton are tricky right now. It's
Hmm.
like I don't love like I mean it's not that their defense is like impenetrable, but it's just like they're just good. Like they're
Yeah,
they're good and they're in good form. It's honestly like, it's like the Danny Welbeck season. Like it's like it's amazing. Like it's so cool. Like I did not think he'd be able to keep it up for an entire year, but we're in March and he's still scoring important goals. Like what can
yeah,
you say? It's awesome.
yeah. I guess like the fixture that people desiring Holland are thinking about is Leicester at home in game week 30, and that's it. I think after that, the fixtures are you've got the Manchester Derby. Okay, could be a goal fest. Then it's Palace, Everton, Villa, three teams that can be quite defensively sound.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't. I think we're on the same page here. I don't. He's not at the top of my list. I'll say that much.
Nope.
All right. So the other questions, though. So we kind of did talk about triple captain Salah, but are you just sort of like, are you? Does it hold any appeal? You and I both have a triple captain still, or is it just? To me, it's okay. I will say it's a hard question to answer until we know how the first leg goes in the
Mm,
Champions League,
mm,
and there's almost no good result in terms of what it would mean for Holland or what it would mean for Salah. I guess no, there is one, which would be if like Liverpool won the first leg like 8-0. If Liverpool win the first leg 8-0, I
mm,
would feel pretty good about Holland or about Salah
mhm,
this weekend. Possibly triple captaining him. I don't know that he would play the second leg in that case. But outside of that, I don't know. I mean, it's because if they're down, he's at risk. If it's close, they're at risk. There's
mhm.
I don't know. It's kind of tricky.
It doesn't feel. It feels like a good opportunity, just sort of in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Is it? And this. You talked about patience earlier, and it tends to be my game to just be a little more patient or just put off decisions.
Yeah.
So it could be me just putting off a decision or a good moment to play it by saying, there could be a better time.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, Isak with his double home fixture in game
Yeah.
week
32.
32 is compelling. I just can't imagine not playing the triple captain on Salah this season, though. I think though overall, I'm just not feeling it vibes way, and
Yeah.
I'm just gonna holster the triple captain and wait for another opportunity. Is how I'm feeling
I
now.
I do think that the SOC 32 is a little easier to sort of get excited about. Maybe I don't know. It's like it just seems kind of fun to have.
Hmm.
It's gonna feel like it's a big time differential
Hmm.
too, right? I don't think everyone will be on it, and certainly a lot of people have
Hmm.
already played it too. So yeah, so I think there's definitely some appeal there. So yeah, I'm gonna hold off on that. What about transfers for you? So you're planning to free hit in 29, right?
No, I have 4 blankers.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. You're planning to not free hit
I'm
29. I'm
planning to
sorry.
not free hit. I have 2 free transfers right now, so 3 in total looking ahead to game week 29, and it's really just Watkins and Allison who need to go because 'cause I'll plan on benching Isak and Salah.
Okay.
So, Watkins will become Chris Wood, and the debate is, does he become Wood in game week 28 or just ahead of game week 29? And then probably Matt Sells in goal in place of Allison, so I can finally achieve the glory of the Forest defense.
Hmm.
That feels decent enough to me. And then probably looking at Dean Henderson when I wild card at some point ahead of, if I wild card ahead of the 32 double. Um, so that's my it's pretty non-urgent right now. I'm considering either rolling or picking up Wood in game week 28.
I mean, that seems like a pretty good spot to be. How many transfers do you have again? Sorry.
2 free transfers
2 free
and
transfers.
then 1 additional when we head into game week 29. I mean, moving Allison now is obviously silly when you're hosting Southampton.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I really don't have any problems to fix. I Watkins is Watkins has done all right for you and me in
Hmm.
the last month or so, but it feels like it's just little drips of points, nothing
Yeah.
transformative, and I don't think he's been playing so well. I am not going to miss Watkins when I sell him.
Yeah, I mean, given some of the other performances I've had in my squad this year, he's not he. I'm feeling like pretty good. Certainly, I feel good about him this weekend. I think him playing in the Brentford match, I'm certainly keeping him for that.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, yeah, like he's certainly got to go for 29.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and bus team, I do have the captaincy on Salah. Our
Wow, bold. Yeah, no.
yeah. I mean, we kind of tried to have this debate sort of unsuccessfully ahead of game week 27, where Palmer had Southampton, and we're like,
Hmm.
"Ooh, Palmer, could he take some
I know.
effective ownership away from Salah?" And that just
It
blew
yeah,
blew up in the
It
face of
it did.
everyone.
He did, and then Salah had his like worst FPL output in 3 months. So it was
Mm.
really it felt like it should have a more in a more just world, Brandon. We would have been rewarded with a massive Salah return there.
Uh-huh. Yes, it's true. Or it could have gone the other way.
That's true.
Because Palmer had his chances, and as you say, Salah didn't play all
Yeah.
that well, relatively
Yeah.
speaking.
Yeah, he had more of he had his like I'm gonna set people up kind of game, right? Instead of his
What? Yeah, yeah. What's gonna have to happen in the Liverpool echo to move people to Palmer?
hmm.
You know.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you could like, yeah, was he seen at the team hotel, that sort of thing. Although at that point it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't think he. It's hard for me to imagine him coming off the bench. It'd be, it's like it's more likely. It's different when you imagine him not getting a ton of minutes. Where
Yeah.
it's like, I could see it being like the way he's managed Trent Alexander-Arnold recently,
Mhm.
where it's like, who another player, sadly, he's in my squad, but he might be at risk this weekend too. If again, it really just depends on how the first leg goes because Connor Bradley is a very, kind of worthy backup. And oh wait, he's out though, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, so it's a little trickier.
But then he
Right?
brought in
Yeah.
Kwanzaa for
Right.
Trent the other week, and I feel like it's less he's managing Trent's minutes. It's more Trent said, "Gaffer, I'm going to Real Madrid in the summer," and Slot said, "Okay, well, I'm going to punish you publicly every week
You
in
think
front
so?
of the fans."
I don't know. I think that's an to be respectfully, I think that's an ungenerous reading. I think he was injured for a while and he's been managing his minutes because they have like basically like they have a legitimate shot to win the Premier League and the Champions League this year.
Mhm.
And I do think he's really important to that, right? And so I think
Mhm.
that I think it's more that
Okay.
than the other. But
Okay.
you know, we'll see what comes out in the Liverpool Echo come
Well,
June, Brandon.
When
Yeah.
Trent publishes his bio, what would Trent's bio be?
Yes.
Alexander Awesome?
Trent
Well,
Alexander Awesome would be good.
mhm.
Yeah. Like it's like an acrostic. Like it's like a
Mhm.
sort of yeah,
100%, yeah.
yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what his middle name is. I'll have to let's see if we can find that out for the
Alex.
next. Oh, and then his last name is actually Ander Arnold. That'd be amazing. All right. What do you think? What are the odds are that it's going to be on his Wikipedia page?
Pretty good. I
I
mean,
like that I somehow Googled Trent Arnold. Like I just skipped the Alexander there. Trent John
mm.
Alexander Arnold. There you go.
I don't know if we've discussed this. I was recently on, I think our friend Eric on our Discord pointed this out. It was on Nottingham Forest goalkeepers Matt Sells, his Wikipedia page, where it says his full name is Matt's Willie Els Sells.
That's a great name.
It's not
That's
even
fantastic.
there, and there are no scare quotes in there. Like one of these is a nickname. No,
Mhm.
that's his given name, Matt's Willie Els Sells. Go.
Trent's shorter than I would have expected. How tall do you think he is? I mean, I kind of give it away by saying that, I guess, but
Okay, five
um,
eight.
well, he's 5'9", but
Mm.
he's kind of lanky. So I assumed he was like in the 5'10", 5'11" range.
Mm.
I would have put him a little taller than
Hmm.
that. All right. So let's see. What else do we want to talk? Oh, right. So the other thing I thought just might be useful would be, some people to target for a Game Week 28 free transfer, keeping the blank in mind, right? So if you were looking at somebody, well, like what you don't want to do is bring in somebody like you were saying, like Liverpool, who, I mean, you could do it, but it's trickier
Hmm.
to bring in a Liverpool player and then they don't play in 29, and suddenly you've sort of created a problem for yourself. And so maybe it depends on how many transfers you have. But there are, a couple of squads that have strong 28s and 29s. Unfortunately, I mean, you talked about this at the top of the pod, but the Cunha injury is a tough
The
one for
red
those that,
card. Yeah.
excuse me, the red card. Yeah, Mateta got injured. The Cunha injury is tricky for anybody who was looking at him as an alternative. Now you can look at, I mean, Brune Larson is, I think, a good player. It has the like whiff of desperation to bring him in, right? It
Sure
doesn't
does.
feel like it's
Hmm.
necessarily going to work out,
It's a
but
classic FPL mistake of, well, this guy's going to play and he's cheap, so I'll get him, and not taking into consideration of, well, this guy's out and the team will be worse as a whole.
yeah, just one Premier League goal for Brune Larson going back to game week 14. So that is, no, he hasn't played all the time, but he's played enough for that to be pretty low. I don't know that there's really any. I'm just sort of looking through the squad right now. I mean, I guess Eight Nuri is still kind of the one, right? The one defensive player. But I mean, they just don't keep clean sheets, right? And so, I mean, I guess they've kept two in the last 7 weeks. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
even with good fixtures, you wouldn't necessarily
Mhm.
expect a lot from them. But I'm not sure there's a better kind of high upside pick among the people with good upcoming fixtures than
Yeah.
Aiden Nori in terms of the defenders available.
Right. Sure. I like Joe Gomez as a midfielder for Wolves. I mean, he's involved in the attack. He's 4'9", and
Yeah,
um,
scored last weekend.
yeah. So that, but again, we're in real stretch territory.
Yeah.
I guess we should be talking more about players you actually like would be excited to get.
Well, sure. I mean, I was just sort of thinking through the sort of fixtures. But I think, yeah, if you were sort of looking at the old fixture difficulty rating, I mean, I think Arsenal, not a great double with Man United and Chelsea. I guess Bournemouth. I mean, I think that certainly from an attacking point of view, Spurs away, Brentford at home, Ipswich at home, like
Hmm.
quite strong, right? And so I
Yep,
think, and you have a Hoytson as well, right? And so I think that
I
there's
do.
some, I think defensively there's some appeal, maybe more in 29 than 30, or more than 29 than 28, but still,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and Bournemouth have been they've struggled the last couple of weeks, and it's been just sort of like bad luck from a dodgy red card to just kind of getting outplayed in game week
yeah,
27. I think that we should not forget how good they were for such a
yeah,
sustained period of time just before the last couple of game weeks. So
yeah,
I like it, and they just have a variety of assets. I mean, Evan Nielsen, with all of these nice fantasy forwards getting dropped from the menu, and Cunha and Mateta's Evan Nielsen come back and look really good.
hmm,
I think game week 28 could be an Evan Nielsen sort of tryout. Put him on your scout
yeah.
Evan Nielsen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily bring him in yet. just because there is still, I think, some risk that he is being managed a little more carefully, right? And because he was out
Mhm.
for a couple of months, so it could be
Right.
tricky still with him and Utara. Although, as you said, they could both play together. Everton's interesting because their next two fixtures are okay, and then it's always fun to look at the fixture difficulty calendar because it
Mhm.
takes a turn for the catastrophic for them beginning in game week 30.
Mhm.
Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest, Man City, Chelsea, all in a row. That is a rough run. They're lucky they did what they had to do, which is pick up a bunch of points during
Yeah.
an easier run, and so they're probably fine. But wow, that's a rough run.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then yeah, it gets a little trickier. I mean, you talked about maybe you just go for it right now with Gibbs White or Wood, just because Man City defensively are like they had another injury this weekend, right? I think was it Ake or somebody got injured for Man City. Another center back went down,
Every
so
week, one of
yeah,
them comes back and another one gets injured, or the
it's
guy who
crazy.
comes back gets it's like,
Yeah,
"What's
yeah.
going on?"
So I think I mean, you could go with an Aina type there, but I think you'd be safe just kicking things off with Gibbs White or Wood with the
Yeah.
28 fixture. I think the Man City one is still, I think it's rated a 4 on the fixture difficulty scale. But again, maybe just because there's a decent chance they're going to score a goal in that one, but I think from an attacking point of view, it's a much better
Mhm.
fixture than that. Yeah, and then I guess that's kind of it. I mean, I'm not seeing like there's not that kind of one squad that has just the dream double of between 28 and 29, right? I think it's a little bit more of a mixed bag otherwise.
Mhm. I do think West Ham's picking up some steam, and Bowen and Wan-Bissaka, I think, are
Yeah, that's a
really
good shout.
interesting
That's a
options.
good shout. Yeah.
Yep. Wan-Bissaka is sort of like, left a bad office, and now he's flourishing, under a nice boss.
I'm super impressed. Like he's at
Right.
a yeah. It's like I feel like him and like Tyreek Mitchell, like two guys that are sort of like it felt like they were kind of like both ex Palace guys. Or I mean, obviously Mitchell's still there. But like two people who felt like it was just like took them a while to like sort of like really like take off. And it feels
Mhm.
like this season they've really both stepped up a lot.
Just in time for, Ben Chilwell to come in and take Mitchell's spot.
Oh, do you think so?
I
That's
would
yeah. I don't know.
I would
Maybe.
assume that
Yeah.
he got that Chilwell goes there to play.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, we'll see. Chilwell can't stay healthy though. He and he's like Reece James gets all the hate, but Chilwell is not much better in
It's
terms
true,
of
it's
his
true.
injury record.
Mhm.
All right, so I think just in terms of game week 28, though, we talked about transfer, talked about move. There's not so much to talk about in this pod because we sort of went through there were no matches this weekend, and we just had matches last week. And in some ways, the like kind of optimal strategy is to, at the very least, hold off on your decisions until Thursday, I would
Mhm.
say, or at least Wednesday,
Yeah.
depending on who you have in your squad. Not so much for press conferences, but just to see what the Champions League does. And everyone's gonna be playing their strongest side, and that's gonna. I mean, I don't even know if I went through my squad, I'd have probably at least 5 or 6 people, right? They're going to play over the next handful of days. So
Mhm.
it's tricky.
Yes, it is. Watch your FootMob app. That is a free ad for
That's true.
FootMob.
No, I'm on there like for every Champions League match. It's
Yeah,
such a handy resource.
yeah.
I love it too. All right, well let's end things then, Brandon, with a couple of quick notes. I think in terms of the kind of the make fantasy fun again, uh, like if you can only watch one match this weekend, I do think it might be the early match on Saturday. I do think that
Mhm,
Forest Man City. I just don't see that being a 0-0. As you were saying, I think that Arsenal are defensively strong enough to do that, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think
mhm.
once I wouldn't be surprised if one of the other squads scored early and the other, then we had sort of a back and forth. So I think that one should be super fun. I'm certainly rooting for Forest in that one.
I would go Spurs, Bournemouth. I think that could be just like a fun attacking fixture with a lot
Hmm.
of goals. So that's the mid the one of the early kickoffs on Sunday. Spurs, Bournemouth.
Yeah. The thing we didn't talk about with Liverpool too is I don't know how much it really affects game week 28, but I was just thinking about Liverpool playing Spurs in the League Cup semifinals, but there might be, gosh, I think there has to be a little bit of risk around Salah. Not enough to not captain him, but um, the risk of him getting like a full rest
Mm-hmm.
at midweek because, or I mean, not at midweek, but for game week 28. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you think about it, 2 legs of the Champions League and a cup final the following weekend for
Mm-hmm.
them too. It's a lot. Like they kind of should rest him if they can, right? It just seems logical. I mean, he never gets a rest. So Southampton at home is about as good a chance as you're going to get to do that.
Yeah. So Liverpool are in a what game is this?
Hmm?
What game? Liverpool are
Did I not? Did I say the wrong team or something?
Liverpool Spurs.
Liverpool. Well, you brought up Spurs, which
Oh,
just
Newcastle.
reminded
Oh,
me
sorry.
of
Gotcha.
Liverpool. Liverpool beat Spurs in the League Cup
Ah, right.
semifinals.
Sorry. I was wondering if I was on the same page. Right. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Liverpool, Newcastle.
Man United Arsenal, I weirdly have like no excitement about. I mean, it just like Man United just turn every match into this just like I don't know what's going on right now with them. Like Harry Maguire now is like the most important player again for being out of the squad for half a decade. It's like I don't know
Mm,
what's going on. I guess Bruno still is, but it's just like they every match is like a drag right now. And
hmm
I'm sure Man United fans agree with this. I mean, this has not been a fun season, right?
No, I mean just one on top of the other. Yeah, it's same old tune, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah, exactly. I'm ready for them to be really good again. We need another villain, Brandon. Right? I mean, Man City. If Man City are going to start tumbling down, from their perch, a new villain must take their place, right? And
Hmm
Arsenal aren't that team. Liverpool, Salah's too lovable. Like it's like when people hated the Golden State Warriors for a while. It's like okay, like maybe you don't like Draymond Green or something, but like
hmm
Steph Curry is like Mo Salah. It's
Sure.
like how do you not love these guys? Like
Mm,
they're everything that makes sport
hmm
good and like, worth watching. It's like to hate them
Yeah,
is to just be kind of like it says more about you. Like it's like I'm not a Liverpool fan, but I love to watch Mo Salah play. Like
uh-huh.
how could you not?
Sure.
Like it's yeah.
Well, we'll see if he's there next season. Maybe he leaves and Slot brings in some guys with very evil looking goatees.
Why are these guys all going to leave? Is it just money? I mean, is it a new opportunity? Like, what? Why is it such a fait accompli that these guys are all going to leave at the
I
end of the
imagine it's
year?
big contracts, new challenges, all
Yeah,
that stuff. I
yeah,
mean, I've seen you get like this before, where you're in a job for too long and you get a little itchy. You're
that's
sort of
true.
like, what's
That's true.
next?
That's very true. That's very true. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah. I mean, it would kind of make sense for a lot of them to go out this summer.
Hmm
But man, you can't replace those people either.
No,
They're almost I guess I do.
irreplaceable.
Yeah, they're irreplaceable, right? I mean, it's like they're if you cannot take that squad and take out their 3 best players and then have a
No.
way,
Uh,
for
yeah,
it
I
to
do think
yeah.
it's like just like conjecture. I think it's the optimal time for it to all happen where you
Yeah.
have strong leaders in the team who have achieved everything there.
Yeah.
And you've got Slot coming in who's not really going to get any credit for this league title. People will be reflecting on Klopp and the backroom staff building this squad.
Yeah.
Slot kind of comes in, and I mean, obviously, real fans of the sport understand that he's got a lot to do with it, but he will be
Yeah.
eager to bring in some new players that he can take
Sure.
ownership over. Right?
I think that's true. Although I think if he wins the double, I think he'll get a fair amount of credit because I think
Mm-hmm.
that's such a rare thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I do kind of agree with you. I, mean, I think everyone has a healthy respect for Slot, but it does. I mean, this team still obviously has Klopp's fingerprints all over it,
For
right?
sure.
It's yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, that is that then. Good luck this weekend. We'll be back at midweek with our Patreon pod. So we'll have post champion. We record that on Thursday evenings. That'll be after the Champions League and Europa League matches. So we'll catch everybody up on that and dig into Gameweek 28 even further. But yeah, let's go. I don't know. Let's go Conclave, Brandon. Let's see if Conclave can pull it out
Mm-hmm.
tonight.
Mm-hmm. Let's do it for the Pope.
Do it for the
Absolutely.
Pope. Yeah, exactly. Francis needs this. Okay, Brandon.
Yeah.
He's not
And
doing well.
cast your vote for the Pope at patreon.com/always cheating. And as we like to do each week, we like to thank the popes of always cheating.
Hmm.
Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, Dave Wagner Lodahl, our buddy Chris Howell, Andy Penn, Nick Wright, Lazarus Yanos, Jesse Halstead, Brian Chin, Bobbas Kuhn, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons, Terrence O'Donnell, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, as he does it, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Craig Jackson, Caleb Robbie, Brian Clark, Thomas Tislov, Fro Jacobson, Gareth H., Shalin F. Kadakia, Rishi Nigam, Noah and Louise, Travis Grant, Linus Fennerstrom, Matthew Skinner, Ben Coombs, Eric Kite, Rune Sandberg, James Murray Wood, James C., James Holland, the three Jims, and James Scully. Let's throw a fourth Jim in there for fun. Craig at Total Mass Tutoring, and Francis Mann. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Follow us wherever you get social media. Alwayscheating.com is the website. All right. I'll see you on our Patreon pod Thursday night, Josh, for some more real talk about our Game Week 28 squads.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. Take it easy, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye. Week. Whatever. Weekend. Week. The whole thing.
All right. That's a wrap.
All right. It was kind of fun. Like we had like a little bit of like a fuck it quality to it, which